I've never played. Like I know, I've collected the figures once upon a time and painted them, but I never played it. I've never really played any of the computer games or anything either. Like the universe doesn't really do anything for me. But if Henry Cavill's in it, you gotta like give it a little shot.
Well, I don't know that he's in it. I know he's producing it, and he was a very big fan of it. So it's supposed to. Well, I don't know about supposed to because it hasn't even really started yet, but it makes people happy that he's doing that because they want a good adaptation and with somebody in charge who actually likes the stuff.
I think he's gonna have a pretty big role in it.
I
I
wouldn't be
don't know.
surprised. I'm
Probably.
just, you know, that's not currently where it's at. It's nowhere. It's in the hey, we're doing this.
Yeah, it's in the headline phase, but not in the actual production working on it phase.
So, welcome to the Warhammer podcast.
Oh, that'll last us another 20, 30 years.
We've got we're missing the only person who could possibly even talk about it cogently.
So we're
I
gonna
only
read
know
all of
some
the
of the
horror
Warhammer Fantasy.
heresy and evaluate it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's pretty much all I know of Warhammer is the memes and the figures. That's it. I don't know shit about his lore. I don't care. I'm sure it's fine for what it is, but I just
The only thing I really know and appreciate is the orc magic.
It works on belief.
Yeah.
They pick up a stick and it fires like a gun because they believe it works like a gun, and so no one else will be able to do that. But that's how
Red
it works
goes
with orcs.
faster, and therefore it goes
Yes.
faster. That's just how.
Yeah. Warhammer is ridiculous always, but well, let's talk about other ridiculous shit of peace talks.
Yeah,
How's that for a segue?
that's how excited we are to talk about this one because
Well, so
rather
the
talk about
second guess
Warhammer.
it's been really fun, but it gets harder and harder as we get to the newer books because we see the after effects a little bit less. It's like if he made a different decision in Summer Night, we can see how that might have changed things so much. It becomes like almost a discussion of alternate history, but we've got two books back to back, Peace Talks Battleground, Peace Talks. We don't quite know what the after effects would be of some of these decisions.
So what you're saying is we just have to do another one of these again in like 10 years.
Exactly.
Great.
I have to look at
Something
your
to look
luck for
forward to.
another 10 years, EG.
Probably.
Goddamn.
Yeah, by the time this series is done, you can't possibly be shocked if it takes 10 years.
No, I mean,
Actually, it's going to take more than 10 years. What am I saying?
Yeah.
I mean, there's not that many Files books left, right? It's 5 Files books, and if he gets
but
back into pace,
even if he does one every 2 years,
Yeah, that's
he used to do one a year. Come on, Jim.
used to, but people like you want that stupid Aeronauts book.
It's good, but
So
yeah,
he's doing that now.
He did it when he did the one Alex likes. That's really not that great.
Codex Alera.
So
Yeah,
you got
that one.
5 Files books, and then you got the 3 BA2 books, which are going to be like 5 times the size of a Files book each. So we're talking, we're easily 10 years at best. We're, until one of us dies.
It's gonna be good.
So we have something to look forward to. We'll do this in 10 years, and we'll see how important these various decisions of peace talks will have changed things in the future books.
It's going to be
Wonder
our
where
next
you
decisions
where you-
and reread.
Wonder where you guys will be in 10 years in your life. I watched
Probably
you grow.
a-
I watched
a
you guys
different
grow
ass.
so much, or Alex grow so much.
I was going to say, you're going to be in exactly the same room.
I'm gonna be
So,
right
really,
here.
it
EG
doesn't
might
matter.
actually still be in his kitchen.
Oh,
too,
you're giving up
but-
your dream of coming to America and having Costco pizza?
But I mean, no, I'm not giving it up. But I don't know, man. That green card, it's not easy to get.
No, I've got a desk coming, so I'm going to be in the living room from now on until I move.
Oh,
Ooh.
This is
Fancy.
actually, I think, the last kitchen episode or second to last kitchen episode. It depends on my willpower to put the desk together.
you're gonna have like a podcast set up with like a microphone in front of you.
I got a microphone in front of me already.
Okay.
I just don't have an obnoxious one in front of me like you do, who's like, "Oh, look at you, I'm a podcast person."
It's good. It's good. You gotta look the part. You gotta sound the part. You know.
No, really, you do neither. So here we go.
Try, okay.
It's the accent; it doesn't help.
So I don't think there's many of the decisions in peace talks that we can actually put towards Harry if we're going to focus on it, because the biggest one that comes to mind as one of the first decisions would actually be whatever happens between Laura and Mab in the back of the car. it's clearly they're doing some form of bargaining. And Matt even asked Laura, I think, of like, is he still acceptable to you? Which certainly sounds like he's being bargained away.
Which he is.
Yeah. And the timing of that one occurs to me as being important because that would have been just after, or maybe not quite. Would Harry have been protected by Murphy's Love yet?
I mean, they've been together for a few months at that point, so
Yeah, he's
maybe,
protected,
probably.
though.
I mean, yeah, I don't think they just had sex for that first time. You know, slightly after this.
They've
But-
been boinking a lot.
Well, I mean, it depends on her. Maybe it was the first time because she was kind of crippled, but I don't think so.
Yeah, so I'm curious as
Horniness
to.
finds a way.
Usually,
I'm curious as to, did Laura know, and could she sense if it was there, she would be able to sense it, I assume.
Mm.
If he was protected, did she accept him with the protection, or was she assuming that he still wouldn't be? She wasn't surprised necessarily when he was protected later. It doesn't change the nature of the political bargain.
well, I think it's because I don't know that she has a sixth sense of it. They don't have a sixth sense of it, right? Because like she's touched the wrong wedding ring and got fucked up, and she went to kiss him in the deeps, and she didn't realize he was still protected, and that messed with her.
Yeah. I guess that. I mean, she did accidentally get burned by him later when maybe she could have been able to not do that. But if they were examining him to see is he acceptable for this purchase, I would assume she might have tried something to feel out if he was protected or not.
Well, it's also possible that whether she knows it or not, which she probably doesn't based on the conversation that goes on later. It's kind of a convenient thing if she doesn't want to force the issue of like consummation necessarily, because she might just as easily not want to do that with Harry for whatever reason. So
Nice
it's
to know
convenient enough.
What reason? I mean, because at all signs so far, she would love to eat him.
Well, no, it's going to be because she's actually kind of falling for him, and it'll be a strong relationship, and that's why she's going to have to die. That's how this goes.
The biggest shock would be if she doesn't die.
I would be surprised if she doesn't, but you start checking up with Harry, it's
Doesn't have a good track record.
no, not so much, except for Elaine, Team Elaine, all the way. I mean, it doesn't have a good track record for her, but she's still alive.
No, she did survive technically. We think.
No, she's still around.
Yeah,
She's
just
not.
is she still what we expect her to be? Is she a bad guy? Is she infected?
I don't think she
She's
is.
suspicious.
Yeah, I think she's a red herring.
Fair enough. All right. And this.
So, when it comes to Harry decisions, the first and most obvious stuff is the stuff with Ebenezer. Because the way he deals with Ebenezer obviously is the one pushing the things the way he does too, but the way Harry deals with it is easily sets the stage for getting killed later.
This being Ebenezer saying stay away from Thomas, and Harry saying no, I'm going to save him, but not saying that because he's my brother.
Well, and the prodding McCoy about his choice to have Maggie versus McCoy's choice to with his mom, and just throwing out assumptions of things he doesn't know, but he's not looking to have the conversation. He's just looking to fight about it, essentially.
Yeah.
And the whole running security and doing all this stuff. I mean, he could have said no to that, and that would have maybe saved a certain level of a headache later. Probably not, but still.
The ramifications. Yeah, I mean, the ramifications obviously of Harry and Ebenezer's relationship did lead to a disaster at the end. But yeah, I guess you could see how they're on opposite sides of a significant choice, I guess at least that Ebenezer had made, and now thinking that Harry is making the wrong one. It's just not narratively presented as Harry is making a choice. It's just obviously he's going to do this thing of he's going to protect his brother. He's going to be there for his daughter. it's not a choice to him. It's just was already need to happen.
No, the choices are more in the confrontational way I think he goes about it, and the words he uses to poke at McCoy and get all defensive when he could easily not.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's still time. It's not, like this sets the stage for what comes later, but as we see later with the corner house and stuff, like they're still on fine enough terms. Like this wasn't a death blow by any stretch. It's one step in the direction of it. So
yeah,
but he can always handle a lot of his conversations better.
Harry can often make many different choices in how he handles people in confrontation, and it also just seems like a reflex that he can't help himself with being a smartass and gets himself in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But so after Thomas gets caught and beaten very heavily, and Harry goes to Laura for help to try to, how do they figure out how to get him safe? Because both of them want him to be safe and not in the hands of the Svartalfs.
Mm-hmm.
So that is an interesting choice. It makes perfect sense, but he did still go to a White Court vampire for help and to trust. And in this situation, he has reason to trust her. But as we see 5 minutes later, it still makes him suspicious when Carlos and them are thinking that he's been infected by at least a White Court vampire.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the choice. It makes sense, and it's not really at that point. Who else are you going to go to? So, I guess the only way to do that differently is to be looking for a tail, essentially, from the wardens.
Yeah,
but I don't think that's going to happen.
Ramirez already put a follower on him at the time.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He would have had to have sought that thing and been like, "Hey, I'm being tracked," and like thrown them off the scent somehow, which again would have just made him suspicious to them. But at the same, but they at least wouldn't have necessarily known he had that conversation with Laura or went to see her. So,
yeah.
But yeah, the way he handles that conversation also, again, you understand why he did it the way he did it, but he could have handled it better.
Everyone could have handled that one better.
Yeah, yeah. It's primarily on them, but if the primary goal is to analyze his choices, then him not just being like, "Hey, I'm in a relationship with Murphy now. You want to go talk to her?" Like, that wouldn't have been the hardest thing in the world to do.
Yeah, because they had valid reasons for being suspicious and scared of him coming out of Laura's house and having recently had sexual relations with somebody. But
you think that's why Carlos was upset about it, because he's still a virgin?
You've been having relations? I haven't.
Sex in this Christian white council? How dare you? I think that's the real issue.
It could be, because last time he tried, at least as far as we know, did not go well for him.
Oh, that sure did not.
The invasion of privacy is obviously uncomfortable, but their reasons for being scared are also valid. And so you could easily just choose to give some information freely that would make them feel a lot better and a lot less scared of you, which would make everything a lot easier. It's like, I get the reasoning, but sometimes that the logic of giving on a little bit of a principle to be able to actually work together better might be a better choice.
Well, it's the dichotomy of you're letting the white council into your business, quote unquote, versus Ramirez is your friend. And you would have, if the situations were reversed, you would have pulled on that card if you were Harry to try and get him to see reason. I have no doubt. So, it's a balance. It's like, yes, these are the wardens of the White Council looking to get into your business, but at the same time, of all of them, other than your grandfather, who else are you going to really trust, quote unquote? And it's probably Ramirez. And that's probably, now, at the same time, if they're still this much in their feelings about it, even after he's been their superior officer for a number of years and gone through all these things with them and this, that, and the other thing. And they are just so like, oh my God, are you bad? It's like at some point, your track record and your choices do have to either speak for yourself, or you can just get the fuck out of my face, because you're what else do I have to do?
I mean, I guess,
Essentially.
does his track record actually speak for it? I mean, like, they know everyone's afraid of him because he's the Winter Knight, but what has he done since then that means that they're afraid of him? He stopped Demon Reach from exploding. He got
Well, I mean, you
Nicodem-
get Carlos's examples in the next book, essentially, where it's like you made this choice, this choice, this choice, blah blah blah. Now he is also more affected than the others because of his running with Molly, so he essentially probably is jaded by the fact that he saw someone he thought he knew almost kill him after becoming hitched to Winter. So now he's not willing to give Harry the same benefit of the doubt, even though he hasn't done anything really that would make you side eye unless you were looking to side eye.
Yeah.
Like, this is
I mean,
the kind of rationale that Langtree would have.
This is the same rationale that Butters had, but with, I feel like, a little bit less
Skin
evidence
King.
even. Yeah. I mean, Butters had a little bit more reason of at least being suspicious. He didn't, I mean, he did, I guess, invade privacy by putting a bug, but he didn't make things, I don't know, did he make things more worse than Ramirez does? I don't know.
Well, I mean, he gets Murphy crippled and he gets the sword broken, and you could
I was
argue
pulling
that.
Butters for all of these things.
Well, you could argue that she gets crippled and gets whatever,
sword
and
before.
it also then will lead to her death because she's hindered and all this stuff. So there's a through line there. If you want to blame him for it, like, you can. I don't care. That's the one good result of everything he did, is it eventually led to Murphy's death. So that doesn't make me happy with him, but it did do that. So, it's just, it's like any choice. There's factors and there's this, that, and it's like, how much impact did you have versus this other factor? And you'll never know, really. You can make an argument
People
for any number of
speculate
things.
wildly about it.
Well, like, I'm happy to say it's Butters' fault, but and I believe there's sound reasoning for it, that he made things well. I mean, but again, now we're talking about, depends on what you think of as worse. So those things happen. It leads to the sword breaking, but then he becomes a knight, so that's a wash, and better if anything, because he gets a fucking lightsaber and everybody's tripping over themselves to say how cool that is. So it leads to Murphy's death. Yay me, but people are upset about that. I guess that's a consequence. Versus Ramirez and what he does, which eventually leads to Harry getting kicked out of the council. And so now we don't know what far-reaching consequences those will have yet. Probably bigger ones, because of the
Could
nature.
Harry have done some different choices? Like, could he have levels? Could he have, like, I mean, Harry acts pretty much like Harry acts, right? But could he have gotten Ramirez and the people, the tag-alongs over to, like, see how it actually is, instead of their assumptions, by leveling with them and not getting offended?
I mean, if you're talking about Murphy, you could.
When they're like, "Woo, you had sex," and then instead of getting offended, like, "How dare you invade my privacy?" Be like, "I'm banging Murphy." Could he?
Yeah, I mean, you could.
What would that have done differently?
You could try that at least. I don't know what that does. I mean, it probably makes them pause, and then the conversation will become, well, we have to interview Murphy, and that's where the next pushback is going to flare up, because it's now you got wardens who you're bringing to Murphy's doorstep and to their attention, and that's probably not going to go over well either. So it probably ends up being 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Is Murphy not already at the attention of the wardens?
Not in the same way, I would argue. I think it's different between, it's one thing to be an ally and helping, and you're a former Chicago cop and all this stuff, but it's another to be directly, fucking Dresden.
Intimate.
So that makes you more of, there's a difference between you're able to put pressure on one of Harry's allies versus you're able to put pressure on somebody Harry loves. It's the same problem he was thinking about with Maggie when he discovers she's real, and what the White Council would offer him for her and put the screws to him through her. So
Screw her.
yes.
Wrong one. Yeah, I guess that disappoints me because Murphy is still in casts at the point of this conversation. She's vulnerable. She's not able to fight back or defend herself. And he might not be able to defend her at all points if she's not like involved with the White Council, but if she is made aware to them, then they could do any form of hostage taking, anything.
Oh, well, they don't even have to be that overt about it. It could just be like their eyes are on her, and that's enough to be a, if their hackles are raised.
Yeah.
And it's not like she's going to sit in her house behind the protection of a threshold. She doesn't even fucking do that when there's a Titan stomping around.
To follow this line of speculation, I'm curious, what would they be able to do to her? She is immortal. She does not have magical powers, so she's not even Paranet level. She's not under their umbrella or jurisdiction.
Well, as long as they don't break the rule, the laws of magic, the White Council can pretty much do whatever they want to mortals. Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's really just a matter of how much are they looking to get to the bottom of this through her. I mean, what are they going to do? Could they fuck with her pension, maybe? I don't know. Her actions have probably already done that. Could they, corner her in a dark alley? Sure, but it's not like they're going to be able to do anything other than physically hit her, maybe. It's like none of them are going to do that. I think it's just there's the overarching what if of this organization that's looking at your girlfriend, number one. And number two, it's what else is now looking at this group of wardens, looking at these people who are, talking to Dresden's girlfriend. Maybe it draws other eyes that have less scruples. So. Who knows?
Yeah, I feel like certainty. This conversation between Harry and the wardens could have been better and less confrontational and less, I don't know, starting of something exploding onto them. But I think as much as Harry's handling it badly, I think Ramirez handled it a little bit worse because he wasn't giving any form of friendly overture like you were describing that Harry probably would have.
Oh, he handled it a lot worse. I don't see this as equitable to the McCoy situation where I think Harry was actually being the dick in that scenario. This one's fully on Ramirez. It's just a matter of, we're going with the prompt. So,
yeah. Well, it's like there's a lot less of the impactful decisions that are exactly Harry's as we get further. Like, well, Murphy's decision led to the sword being broken, technically.
And also
and
reforged.
Yeah. Mab's decisions, Lara's decisions, all of these, like, we can't ignore those anymore. Ramirez's decisions are going to be a topic returning.
With any luck, he'll be dead, so it won't matter.
Yeah.
Butters first, but Ramirez can go next.
Yeah, I think Ramirez is going to last a lot longer because he's going to be an even more broken cop in the form of Morgan.
I don't think Butters is going to bite it, unfortunately, so I think he gets to last the longest, and I get to cry.
So, I mean, I guess, and in terms of peace talks, what would be the next biggest decision? Would it be Lara's choices, or like the promises that she has, the requests that she gets 3 of them?
Yeah, I guess giving that away. I mean, it's not really a big choice. I'm interested in the choice that he uses to the way he decides to summon Molly. Because we've seen he can summon Leah and Mab without bothering with a circle. And I think it's supposed to illustrate the problem, quote unquote, but the aspects of the changes going on with her, and that's why it's done. I'm curious as to why he would do it that way when he could probably just whistle her up the same as he has the other 2.
It's a good question. So Leah, I think, is a slightly different situation because of the nature of her promise to Margaret, whatever the hell that was, to protect him, to be there. If he whistles her up, it should be simple because it's on Leah's burden to be there to protect him. Mab similarly, I think, has some kind of obligation towards her vassal, which maybe Molly shares. But since Harry was summoning Molly to ask for a favor, maybe he was having to do the courtesy of giving her a ring pop and Nutella to be able to make that easier on her. And also, she's only been Winter Lady for like 3 years. Maybe it's still difficult to drive around that way.
It's possible. I mean, I assume he could give her the other stuff anyway, just like
Yeah.
because it's not like he doesn't use a circle to summon like Toot all the time now.
No, Toot's just there.
So, I mean, you can do like he did it with Mab when Demon Reach was one big summoning circle, but I don't think he bothered with the circle when he summoned her in Changes, right? He does it with Uriel mentally, but I don't remember if he forms it again when he's summoning Mab. And I know she comes when he does it, when he calls for Leah without a circle in Deadbeat.
I think in context it's implied that he's using circle there in his mind, but for all intents and purposes, that powerful beings in his mind. I mean, I'm not sure if that circle holds.
I mean,
Uriel could have just been.
Well, he says as much. He's like, it's a nice little circle, but come on.
Yeah. I don't know about Mab. She plays by different rules, right? And Harry is very stubborn. But Uriel,
Leo
was
was there with him or with Mab during that conversation with the stone circle. So, I mean, Stone Table, that had a circle of its own, except in this metaphorical meeting place, I guess that Mab didn't need a circle, I guess.
Well, I mean, he summons her, while he's on the cot anyway, and then he gets essentially dragged there.
Yeah. And
like he does one in the grave for Mother Winter, right? Like he makes one and he does the whole the ritual thing with the names, I think. And then because then when the kids see him later in the grave, they're like, "Oh, it's hardcore, man."
Well, so he was bleeding. He was in a grave. He had grave dirt all over him. It's like, and doing something weird on Halloween. Like that's hardcore enough, whether he had a circle or not, or maybe the grave was enough of a circle. I don't fully remember the description. And
I'm pretty sure graves are rectangles.
No.
This intent has meaning. You can't have corners because then he summons a corner hound into his grave, and because there's corners in it, and he's fucked.
The closed shape is all that matters.
So it could be a parallelogram.
Right. Well, so did he use a circle to summon Titania?
In Cold Days, yeah. I don't remember if he did it in Battleground because when he's doing the thing and then the lightning hits him. I don't think he summons a circle, does he?
I don't think so. I don't remember a circle with Titania at all. Just choosing an area that seemed Titania.
No, it did because she specifically breaks out of it to grab him and nearly kill him.
That might be why I don't remember. Is because it didn't hinder her in any way.
Right. She was playing patient, but once he said certain trigger words, it was like, no, we're gonna have a real conversation now, buddy.
Like most of his conversations go.
So yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
It would be same for Mab then.
Yeah, I imagine he can do it without it. And if he can summon Titania without it, I mean, granted, she's probably got her ears on, waiting for the moment type deal. But because it's Harry. But especially within the Winter Court, I imagine, unless it's Mother Winter, he's not necessarily really bound to do it anymore based on his connection as Knight. So, but again, I think it's a plot device to show what's going on with her. I just don't know why he did it unless it was like habit.
It could be habit. It could be courtesy.
Maybe he could have wanted to see what her deal was these days.
It totally was, because he was still asking, because she was asking to be let out of it, and she said that she could push through the barrier, but she would leave all the important bits behind because everything is so melded. It's not a mantle that's tacked on. It's throughout her entire being now. And so it was definitely an experiment on his side to see what would happen. But I don't think it was only that. A lot of it probably was plot device. And we didn't get to see Molly a lot recently. And so here's the announcing trumpet of Sugar.
Yeah, well, it's also probably a power level thing, right? Like, I mean, even the Earl King couldn't, even though he probably should have been able to, although I don't know that his power level was necessarily fleshed out when he was first introduced, break out of the circle he was in. Titania could do it easily, which means Mab could do it easily. When you get to people like Uriel and the Mothers, forget it. They could just like think it away if they wanted to.
Forget about it.
And obviously, when it came to Ethnu, there was extra factors. You had essentially Bob as the circle, and you had the spear head and all that other additive crap. But if he had just like drawn it on the side of the lake like he did with Molly, I can't imagine that would have gone over very well.
Yeah, the quality of the materials with Circle seems to matter, and the best one so far seems to be Bob's screaming head.
Well, I mean, it used to be he had this whole fucking setup in his basement and he could barely contain a toad demon. So,
Let's see what he summons next.
What a ways we've come from toad demons to this.
What he summons next. The next thing he's going to summon is like fucking Lucifer or some shit.
I mean, Lucifer is going to show up at some point.
Yeah, but it's probably going to be when he goes to hell. I don't think he's going to pop up.
Was maybe not summoned, but I guess he was powering the spell that the Denarians are using in Small Fate.
Oh yeah, the Denarians are essentially summoning his power.
Yeah, and they were using circles. Actually, they were using a lot of circles.
Very big ones.
Mm-hmm. The nature of, and how powerful a circle is like I want like a PhD thesis written up about it so I can understand more. So Molly, yes, it was a pretty good decision because not only is she an ally and she is going to be there and in the know and they can work together, but his request of her of making it was a ring, right, that made the image of him that saved his life later. Mm-hmm. And then we got to see how she reacted to a promise and a debt. Like once you do this, it doesn't ever go away. The pain of that never really leaves. That's why they're always going towards balance, because it's constantly bothering them. And we got to see more of kind of just an examination of this nuance that we already know, but it's important to see Molly doing this. It's important to see that he's got something up his sleeve, even though we don't know what.
Yeah. So you get the compulsion angle, you get the reveal later, all that fun stuff.
Yeah. It wasn't after this he went to Michael's house and started like working out with him and like kind of cheating because he was like been pressing a lot of weight and not even really feeling it because of the mantle.
Mm-hmm.
Feeling all mopey.
And then you get the Butters lightsaber train scene, which is just joy.
Yeah.
And all that other crap.
But right around there is when he also had the bright idea of calling Goodman Gray, but because he didn't say it was Gray's name when reading through the dialogue, I thought there was something it's like, how am I going to afford your prices or something? That's not going to kill you. So I thought he was talking to Kincaid before it hung up and said it was Gray. Because getting Gray involved helped quite a lot. I mean, possibly helped a lot later.
Well, if he's listened to him initially.
Yes. Because everyone is smarter than him. It's like, she's a plant like femme fatale. Something is wrong here.
Uh-huh. But, why listen to the potentially millennia-year-old half-Negloshi?
Well, because...
he could be lying.
I mean, yes, anyone could be lying to Harry.
What do you mean? His name's Goodman.
It's true. But his last name's Gray, which makes him, iffy.
But Goodman. You can trust a guy named Goodman.
Even if he
totally not a name he picked himself, by the way.
No, definitely not.
Right. So around that time, he went to see Justine, or maybe this was before that, I don't know, talking to Justine, and then he got attacked by corner hounds. But that's when he was with Ebenezer and fighting off the corner hounds and getting this inkling of an idea of why Harry can fight them. And Ebenezer just had to like hold the ground and deal with not having a bucket or something. After how many books have we heard this word Starborn? And Harry's finally, the light bulb is turning on. What the fuck is this word? And why is no one telling me what it means? And he finally asks Ebenezer, what is this? And what do I have? And then
the plot.
it thickens because Ebenezer says, I don't have the power to tell you. And he walks away. Like, who
What do
can
you mean?
give him...
You're the Blackstaff. You can do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, it's
Well, he
Harry's
does start to
grandfather.
explain it to him later. It's just he's like, I'm not having. I think it was more of I don't want to have this conversation with you right now.
Just being a fucking tease.
And then the corner hounds come up and it's like, all right, fine. I guess you need to know.
Yeah, it's something. It only happens on a certain day every several hundred years, and that's as much as I can tell you without being in trouble. What? But the light bulb that has been trying to turn on for 4 or 5 books by this point. Finally.
I don't think it has. I don't think there's been a light bulb. I think he just got one put in for this conversation.
Just this one.
Because
It's
there's
like
plenty of
after-
other.
In Cold Days, he gets like 3 different times when dealing with the Wild Hunt, they call him Starborn, and he never just asks him, "Why are you calling me that?" Finally.
Well, yeah. I mean, the first time it comes up, he's kind of dying. So, I mean, you can forgive him for not really probing that question. And I guess when the Earl King brings it up, it's like, well, we are kind of running into an army of outsiders. Maybe we'll pin this for a moment. But
How many conversations has he had with Kringle since then? And he didn't ask.
Yeah. Well, again, it's not time for the plot to reveal it. So
Now is the
Harry has
time
to
for
have
the
select
plot to tease.
amnesia. Right. You got to keep you going.
We've been teased for a long time. Just want to say, you know.
And you're going to keep getting teased because it ain't coming up in the next book, probably.
I got a marriage to take care of.
Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, it's going to be all the marriage, the answers he's about to get. It's all going to happen, and then whoosh, pulled into the Mirrorverse right at the last chapter, and that's how the book's going to end. So more teasing. Then he's not going to be able to ask the. I mean, there are ways you could get that topic involved in Mirror Mirror, especially if you're talking to different versions of the same people who will probably have the same information because. You know, it's the same world altered by one choice. It's not like people's memories get erased. So
I don't know. There are ways that Harry could have asked this question. He could still be going to ask different people at this point in the story of just like, so even if he has the promise out of Listens to Wind or whoever that someone's going to give him an answer in a year, he could ask Mab, he could ask Leah. It's people who, I mean, are definitely in the know of what he is.
yeah, but they would want something out of him. I understand not asking them, or at least
Mab already has him. Like, what else did he lose?
plenty. I'm sure.
I mean,
I have no doubt about that.
I mean, maybe Mab would have to say, "You never get to call me about car problems ever again."
Oh, the obvious person to ask is Rashid. He's just, you know, he only comes up every few books, so can't do that.
Okay, so the peace talks, they happen, and we get to see some people being weird and prickly, and Molly gets to put some people in their places after they're being too unhappy to the musicians. There's a wonderful stare down between Batarung and Farovax.
Mm-hmm.
And Laura starts pulling in on her promises.
Yeah.
And it was basically get Thomas out of here, which I think he was already going to do. I don't remember in specific what else it would be. But I think she used one of them on an introduction.
Yeah, to fuck, who was it?
Was it Etri?
Yeah, I think it might have been, or Ivana, one of them.
Yeah. All right. So they make the plan to get Thomas out, and then we get to see the wonderful thing of Ramirez getting his cloak attacking him.
Mm-hmm. Also, Harry doesn't say anything more than like a nod to Ivy.
Oh yeah, because Ivy is probably traumatized and ignoring him.
Yeah, that's, I'm sure, not going to fester and lead to anything bad.
It's been festering for a couple years already. I wonder where Kincaid was in this, since he was probably hiding on a rooftop somewhere.
He was in a downtown neighborhood, just like picking off turtlenecks as the battle went on. Or the huntsman. He could probably take out a few of those, no problem, by himself.
Oh, yeah.
Although, with Dracul running around, I don't know that he would have wanted to be.
Oh, that's true.
Within leagues of the city.
Right, but if Ivy's still there, he's going to be there to protect her, even though she probably doesn't need much protection.
Yeah, she doesn't. I mean, other than right at the end with the Titan, she doesn't really throw down that much.
Right. But then, like, as they get Thomas out, and it's like right after that, the Titan shows up, and as epic as that scene is, there's no decisions from Harry because he's invisible, basically paralyzed, and it's just Titan and Mab having nasty words at each other and being thrown through walls.
Kicked
Through multiple walls.
It's an important distinction. It's
Cinematic.
She did the Leonidas, This is Sparta, and she got kicked. Which was good.
And the castle gets partially destroyed. But then Harry leaves that problem as it is and runs to take Thomas to the island because that mattered more in that exact moment, because people didn't think to look for him for an hour, except Ebenezer knew where to find him, and he comes in on a flying rock. It's crazy.
I mean, you might as well show off for a while.
Yeah. It is nice to see more of an extent of what Ebenezer can do with his crazy amount of power and skill that he's developed over more than 300 years.
Mm-hmm.
Flying rock is still just insane. Right. And then we get to see the little trinket that Molly had made in action, sort of, as it gets revealed throughout their conversation and fight. And Ebenezer's terrible choice of deliberately trying to kill him and then being remorseful about it.
Yeah, wasn't that bad.
Yeah. But this being the moment where Harry chooses to finally rip off that Band-Aid to tell Ebenezer that Thomas is Margaret's son, that I figure Ebenezer probably should have known.
Yep.
And just blocked it out.
Still don't like that choice.
You don't like that choice of Ebenezer's to refuse to face reality?
No, he can refuse to face reality, but to actually genuinely not know, it doesn't jive with me.
Right. Because he's smarter than that.
Yeah. Because he would have dug into everything. He says as much that he dug into Wraith as much as he could and tried to get at him like 3 times and this, that, and the other thing. It's like, there's no way he doesn't know. You can repress it. You could be in denial. You could hate him because of it. You could be like, he's no true grandson of mine. But to just genuinely be like, oh, no.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Makes no sense.
Yeah, genuine surprise doesn't necessarily make sense in this point, but the denial of it sure does, because he still blames the Wraith for killing his daughter, which perfectly makes sense. It's not necessarily Thomas's fault. And Ebenezer would know that if he ever tried to have a conversation with Thomas. Yes, he's still a White Court vampire. Yes, he's still a danger to people sometimes if he's losing control. But so is everybody. So is Ebenezer. How many people has Ebenezer killed? And Ebenezer has a license to do so.
At least one.
License to kill.
Actually, no, it's at least 200. I think we see him rip out the lives of 200 people.
If we'd known he sent down the satellite and all the there's plenty of other events that's been mentioned with a lot of losses of life.
Tunguska, Krakatoa.
Tunguska never killed. Well, whatever supernatural entity it killed and whatever is going to be in the story it killed, but that was just like in the middle of nowhere, Siberia. So
could Harry have played that differently with his grandfather?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like the question means yes. At some point, yes, of course he could have said something differently, but...
Well, I mean, if we're going with the route that Ebenezer really doesn't know that is his grandson, rather than making that your fucking, like, dying declaration, open with it.
Yeah.
have the conversation and be like, this is the deal. Can we talk about this?
Can we put all weapons down for a moment and talk about like rational people? Except that would have taken the idea of let's be rational about this, which neither one of them had at that moment.
Yep. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah. And so it's an interesting thing of like Harry was doing deliberately something that was a distraction. And so in a way, making it more explosive made it so that Ebenezer wasn't going to be looking for it to be an illusion, possibly, because if he did start looking for it, he probably would have found it.
Mm-hmm.
So as the worse the conversation went, the more of a distraction it was, successfully. But it has now damaged the relationship in a way that, I mean, I guess they'll get over it. They were fine having a conversation later, but that's not a wound that's going to heal easily.
Well, I mean, fine is subjective. It doesn't really start well. What are you gonna do?
I mean, as they're being attacked by a Titan, they weren't bringing up that conversation again. I mean, maybe both of them still want to hide it, but
that would be a bit awkward.
Yeah,
Probably.
And they had more White Court people or White Council people there that could listen in. It's like, what's happening here?
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, no, it's just non-communication skills in that family are. But it's funny because Ebenezer is pretty clear where he stands on this.
No vampires, as he says multiple
specifically,
times.
These ones.
And see, we did that whole plan without a single vampire. Doesn't that help?
That's a good line.
It's a great line. That kind of snark is the best.
It's like, oh, that's where you get it from, huh? Okay.
It's an inherited genetic thing. Can't wait till Maggie starts throwing it back at Harry.
We did that without a single pancake.
How old is it Maggie is exactly?
10, 11, something like that, I think.
Hitting the teens soon. Gonna give him some lip.
Hopefully. I mean, if anything, she'll learn it from Molly.
If anything, she'll learn it from Michael.
You think Michael knows that much? I mean...
Yeah, he knows.
He can do so more politely, I suppose.
Right. She's not going to do the typical Dresden lip. She's going to be the bless your heart Southern Christian lip.
Oh, bless
so she's learning from Charity.
Yeah, that too.
Yes,
passive aggressive
mark. The whatever people at church that they don't like, but they still have to be nice to. It's like,
I'll pray for you, Dad. Which will probably be the most hurtful thing anyone's ever said to him.
Are there any other choices we can question or go in?
Putting Thomas in stasis is probably the last one.
Yeah. So I mean, if the answer is he has to be at Demon Reach so no one else can get to him, and then he has to be in stasis so he's not dying because he can't feed because they don't have anyone to give him, I guess. So he has to be in that
so far gone that he can't even he can't even take in feed or
so Lara was trying to siphon some towards him. However that worked.
Not very well.
Questionable. So he has to be in stasis, and it's the potentially least painful one, but he's going to dwell on all of his sins, for lack of a better word right now, the entire time.
Contemplation.
That's the word, contemplation. And he could possibly talk to the one other prisoner that is in the same status.
Very specifically mentioned.
Yes.
And I wonder who that might be.
Specifically mentioned, almost highlighted, and then it's like, oh, we're not going to talk about that one right now. They're like, we're not going to talk about Starborn right now. But,
yeah, so I mean, getting a second opinion from somebody a little higher up the chain might have been of a benefit at that point. Can we fix his psyche? I don't know how much time you have. I don't know who you call in for that. I suppose you probably call in Molly and give him a once-over. I feel like she could have given an assessment because she there fairly quickly after when they start doing the battle with the fucking Kraken and shit later,
Yeah,
which is
because
only a few minutes later or an hour later, not even.
something like an hour because of the travel time back to the city, and that Molly and Lara probably been in communication. Lara could have used one of her debts on you must save my brother, fix him, however, and so it's not even incurring a new debt.
Harry could have just summoned her again. He's on fucking Demon Rage.
Yes. I mean, it's just like, how are you going to pay for fixing him, however it is? If it wasn't there just part of the discussion, he had to be on Demon Reach because he couldn't be anywhere else that they could find him. They couldn't stick him like in Arctis Tor or something because then Svartalfs might go like, you violated the peace talk, something.
Yeah, well, it would have to be his controlled area or somewhere that they wouldn't find. I mean, yeah, Winter can't harbor him.
Right, and obviously neither can Lara or the White Court. So,
Right.
Yeah, that's not that easy thing. I mean, maybe Molly will be helpful to fix Thomas whenever we get him back, although Jim says it's big of us to ask that we'll ever get him back. I'll bet $1 he gets Amarakias.
I mean, I'll just bet $1 that he comes back. That's really
Fair
not
enough.
really. At this point, I don't need the sword fan fiction shit about him getting freed of his demon and all happy things.
I don't think he'll be freed, but I don't think he'll just be in better control. I think he'll be suffering the whole time.
God. Well, I mean, there's already precedent for a vampire using the sword as long as they're doing it the right way.
Exactly. And it'll burn him if he's not. It's like, it's a great tell of like, is his thought staying in the realm of good?
That's a very Christian thing too. It's like, oh my God, is he thinking of premarital sex? Burn him!
Exactly.
The angel does not approve.
Right. Like they're taking turns. Like Gabriel's looking down. I was like, nope, that's a Padlin. Nope.
Oh, there's
that's a
an
Padlin.
angel in the sword. It could just be like, oh no,
Yeah.
dirty thoughts, unclean.
Can you imagine he starts like warping the sword? It's like, oh, go on.
That was a lot of heat then.
Oh, yeah,
I'm sorry. Could you expand on that thought a little more? I'd like to. I'm not going to burn you this time. I want to see where you're going with this.
Like, so what 3 things just walked into a brothel?
Harry
Oh
Dresden.
boy, you sure did live a life, huh? Oh sheesh. Feel like I've been missing out inside this sword.
Yeah, right. That would be the greatest. Like the sword gets undone because the angel leaves it to have fucking horny sex with a white court vampire. Impure. I think that would make the angel fall at that point. Would be my guess.
Yeah, that might have some heavy ramifications. Be great
But it's just a
choice to
regular
discuss.
angel, so what's the big deal?
Or you
I mean,
just
they-
let angels
I
get
think
laid
most of the
if they have
Denarians
genitals.
were just regular angels.
Right. And you see they don't, but they only cause havoc because Lucifer kicked them out of hell. The rest of them are down there like chilling. So what's the big deal?
I guess.
They're just hanging out, watching. I don't know, watching The Last of Us or something.
Is there anything else we need to cover? Was this it for our what ifs?
I don't think we're going to do Battleground the next 7 minutes.
No, I don't think we can handle that. I guess there's the last little bit of, I feel, a bit of stupidity of after all of the work that Laura and Harry were putting together to save Thomas, and then she sees Thomas go into a prison and freaks out and attacks him without like having the thought of maybe there was a purpose to it. And so then Harry had to explain everything again. I just
could have done that before.
could have done it before. She could have asked, like, did you do that for a reason?
Coulda, shoulda. Peace talks,
Yeah.
not the best.
And Freya's got
Battlegrounds,
kicked into
though.
the ocean, which was fine because I don't like her.
Yes, right, we know.
But yeah,
All right.
we should plug our shit then, which I think has somehow become my responsibility.
Yes.
What do you mean somehow? It is your responsibility.
We never agreed on anything. Anyway,
We
this
did,
has
you
been
just
an
weren't
episode
there.
of the
We
Dresden
took a vote and
Files
you lost.
podcast, part of the Broken Jars Network. And we have a Patreon that you can go to, that you can give us money on, that will make you come in our Discord, where we will insult you and so send gifs at each other. You can insult us if you want.
You're saying that word wrong.
Yeah, it's not peanut butter.
I'm saying what word wrong?
It's GIF.
Gifts, that's what I said.
RG.
You said GIF. You said the peanut butter.
No, I only say GIF when Justin's here.
Is if he's not here.
Do you want the playback?
Run it back.
All right.
You said GIF.
Anyway,
Stop saying GIF.
I meant to say GIF, I guess.
We have hard political stances on the pronunciation of GIF.
Broken the linguistics.
Yes.
Yeah. If you do that, we can keep running the show, hosting our podcast.
That's true.
No.
We got to keep the lights on at this rate.
Yep.
It's not working out. So get in there.
Gotta pay for EG's new table.
I mean, we're going to need a few more Patreons for that. And by a few, I mean like a fuck ton more Patreons for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we are paying for that one, but who knows? Maybe one day.
Yeah, maybe one day we can actually do all the correct upgrades we want without it being a fucking struggle, because it always is. But that's our stuff, and I'm still bullying Andreas into doing his cooking show, which I've been making filler.
I make no promises.
You got to make Danishes the first episode.
No.
Perfect.
Otherwise, you're not actually Danish.
I mean, like, yeah, come on. If you make Danishes, then he'll stop saying that you're Swedish. How's
Let's not
that?
go that far. I'll give you a month off, maybe.
Is that worth it? Will you do it?
But you have to actually send me a Danish, and I have to actually like it.
Definitely not.
I'm still bullying you to try to do it, so we'll see.
There you go.
We'll see.